Welcome back to the show. This is Not Without Right, a Shakespeare in the Public Domain podcast. I'm your host, Dawn Monique Williams. And look who's back on the pod, okay? You spoke, we listened. I've been informed that I should have these two on the show always, is what I was told, but certainly with regularity. So I did it. Your Shakespeare girlies are back, and we have a special targeted episode for you. So if you stick with us, we are going to talk about Emmerich Roland's Anonymous, because last time we were together, that film came up in our conversation, and it was revealed that Roberta had never seen the film. So we are going to do a deep dive, medium dive, on that 2011 film Anonymous. But first, these two girlies went to a fancy museum after dark, Met Gala-ish event
goodness.
a week ago. So before we turn to the film, can you please tell me what the heck it was you were doing at midnight at the museum?
Okay, well, here's the thing. Like, it was in no way the Met Gala. Like, in no way. We gotta stop saying that because it just wasn't the case.
I mean, some people in attendance maybe thought it was.
Yeah, some people were like really trying to like get their moment,
Yeah.
which I respect, but also it just can't be that deep. I mean, if you want to treat it like it's the Met Gala, then like why aren't you really going to the Met Gala? You know what I mean?
So
Like
what was the event? What is the event?
it was just late night at the late night at the museum, like late night
At the De Young in San
at the Young.
Francisco.
Yes, in San Francisco. It's essentially just like a fundraising event. The whole day is actually like the gala, but the more like daytime, early evening events are for the super rich. It's like $2,500 a table. Obviously, there's like a reception, there's, like a cocktail hour, all of those things. It's like for all the fancy rich people in San Francisco to get together and give money to the DeYoung. And then to make us poors feel better, what they do is they offer a late night party after all the rich people have left, where we can like come into the museum and listen to music and explore the museum and everything after hours. So it feels really like cool and special, and you can like dress up nice and specialty cocktails and stuff. So that's
And it
basically
was still expensive. I mean,
it was.
I mean, it was not a cheap ticket, I would say.
No, but it was not like 2,500 a table or anything like that.
like you still have to like save up.
That's true.
You have to still
Yeah.
plan a year in advance, right?
That's fair. Well,
I mean,
I
Jay,
But you get a lot for the price of admission, and you don't have to pay for anything once you're in. Even drinks and like snacks are free, they're open. But you get music, you get to see certain exhibits that are still open. There's food, there's drinks, there's like different um like I don't know, photography moments, I guess. They
yeah.
really leaned into like there weren't really experiences, but they really leaned into this year like special photog moments. So you could get a picture drawn of you from this artist who's doing like 5-minute captures by hand. You
Mhm.
can get like photo strips. You can get this like 360 video moment. So they really kind of leaned into that as part of the experience this year.
and live
It was fun.
music.
Yeah, and
like,
there was some like
yes, there was live music.
and a
Raven
DJ.
Lene performed.
Who,
The
Yeah.
who?
girls, the girls will know. Like
Raven Lene.
Raven Lene. She's
And then
really
immediately she was at Coachella literally the next
she
day.
was.
Yeah, so she played Coachella the next day.
Also,
So
she did not post about playing at the late night gala, but she sure
no,
posted about being at
yes.
Coachella, which I understand and I respect. But I was like, dang, she did that just to like fund part of her Coachella set. Like she was like, I just need to recoup some of my funds.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if she got paid for more for that museum gig than she did for Coachella. I'm just speculating.
Hmm I don't know.
So we have a research project then to find out how artists are paid to do these museum things versus a thing like Coachella, and what feels
I
more
mean, because she's
lucrative.
definitely not getting paid like, someone who's a top headliner. So like I'm already thinking like for a museum gig, like the private events, like that might be some big money.
It could be. I mean, the
Well,
event was like supported by like Tom Brown and like a caviar company, so clearly they have some.
We got some caviar.
Mhm.
that's so fancy. I saw your 360-degree picture, and one of you is gonna send it to me so I can drop it.
And no, it's hard to say, but I wish you were right here. Oh, it's hard to leave you when I get you everywhere. All this time I'm thinking we could never be a pair. Oh, no, I don't need you, but I miss you. Come here. And oh,
So we have gathered here today because last time we were together, Anonymous, the film came up, and the whole like um, authorship question came up, which you two are like a little like less nerdy about than I am, and Jordan sort of revealed that when that movie came out, we like drove a ways um to be able to see it. And so now we decided to all for Jordan and I to do a rewatch and for Roberta to do a first time watch to dip her toes into the conspiracy theories about the Earl of Oxford. Um, Roberta, I'll come to you first, and then you could pitch it to Jordan. Uh,
Mm.
what's like a big like a the biggest big takeaway or like big thing that you remember from watching?
Um, well, first of all, I've always known that people have challenged Shakespeare as author or sole author of the plays. So, but I have never put stock into it. Like for me, he did the thing, I'm into it. Um, so it was never a theory that I really entertained. So I think watching this dramatized version of this Oxfordian theory, um, I had some mixed I had some I don't know mixed feelings. I thought overall I actually liked the movie. I thought it was well done. I thought it was really clever how they like started it in a theater and then like how it kind of transitioned into like the time that the I don't know who this person was representing that opens the film with the little prologue, talking to an audience. I don't know if he's just being a scholar or if he's an important scholar. Um, but I liked that transition. I thought that was really clever. So overall, my biggest impression is I actually thought the movie was good. So regardless if you are excited about this theory, I think it's worth a watch, especially if you, like me, like those kind of fictionalized historical tales. I'm thinking of Shakespeare in Love. Like it gave me kind of similar vibes. So I think overall, really loved it. I have some real qualms with how certain characters were depicted, and we'll talk about that later. But um, yeah, I think it was fun. Um, I think as a genre, it's really interesting. I I wouldn't say I'm definitely not a convert to the Oxfordian theory based on this, but I am curious to know more and do some more digging. So yeah.
Wow.
Jordan, what was your experience
Mhm.
rewatching it again? Because you were what? How old when you watched it for the first time?
I don't even know, but just like young.
2011. So 2011. I don't
I,
know what that math is.
I don't know. Yeah, I can't do that. I can't
Um,
do that. So
Minus 14. So basically like
yeah.
9, 10, yeah.
Yeah.
I
What
was like,
did you remember? What stuck with you, or did it feel completely new again? Like, what was that experience like rewatching it?
okay, I have a lot to touch on here. I'm gonna say some things that my mom might need to put a goat noise over again for the
Oh,
sake of my like protection and being able to like live a life
uh-huh.
and have a career. First, I want to say my like big takeaway is that like fanfic is so fun and I think it matters and I think it's important because I was watching this movie and I was having a good time. I was like, I'm in it. Like I was with it. I mean, again, I've seen the movie before, but as I was rewatching it on my computer, you know, like doing things around my apartment, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like good. Like this is fun. Like it's just
Yeah.
let the girls have fun. I don't know if a girl wrote this or a woman, but I'm just saying like let girls as like an umbrella. I'm like let the girls have fun because this is it's interesting, even if you don't necessarily like believe it to be true, which
Yeah.
it seems like a lot of people or a fair amount of people do believe this is true. But even if you don't, I think there is just something interesting and fun about like, but what if? Like, what if?
Yeah.
Obviously, it can also like lead to crazy wild conspiracy, but isn't conspiracy just like another path for like discovering? Like, I don't know. Like, let's have some fun. Like, I don't know. So, big takeaway, overall takeaway, fanfic matters. And I'm here to stick up for the fanfic writers. So there was that. Now, in revisiting this movie, I was like thinking back to the first time I watched it, and again, I was like 9 or 10 years old. So I probably didn't really care, and I probably had like a pretty limited understanding of everything going on. But one of the first thoughts that came to my mind was like, oh my gosh, I like actually understand now that men used to dress up as women in the plays. Because I think back when I was 9 and we saw this movie, I think I was genuinely confused by like, I could not tell if these were men or women in some of the scenes. Like, I just remember that feeling of being like, is that a girl or is that a boy? Like, I was trying to, I just remember watching the movie and like you see some of the actors on stage and the performers, and I was like, I can't tell if that's just like a really girly boy or a really boyish girl.
I
And
love that.
now that I'm older and I like have the historical context that like women weren't allowed to be on the stage, so like all things were performed by men, I understand. But I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy that I literally was like, are you boy or are you girl? Tell me now. Like that was literally my mind.
Yeah. I love that because that scene when he's like the young kid
Mhm.
performing for the queen, I also was like, wait, is that a boy or a girl? Like I had to look up who what because I didn't understand the context of the scene yet. Um, and I was like, oh yeah, like it really like the fluidity was like very
Yeah,
present in that moment.
that was like my main thing.
Can you even imagine now that like banning drag is like even up for discussion? Like, what?
No,
Like, no,
I
cosplay
know.
is fun. Like,
It's
like
tale as old as time. Like, what are we doing?
break
And there's
all
that
the
scene
rules.
when the older, because there's multiple representations of the same character because of age. And there's that scene right before older Oxford goes to see Queen Elizabeth, and he's like
He's
putting his
powdering his face. He
putting
literally
his.
powdering his face. And I was
I
like,
was like, go off, like get ready.
Okay, because I get on this soapbox quite often that like a lot of things now that are just like coded feminine or just like assigned to women's use were actually invented
For
for like
men.
men. So
mhm.
like high heels, pantyhose, makeup, wigs, like men had access to all of that thousands and thousands of years ago, well
Mhm.
before it was for women because women were cloistered. Women didn't leave the house. Like, what would you need nail
I mean,
polish for, girl? You're not going outside, right?
like
So,
Literally.
some of the guys in this movie were serving harder than the queen herself.
Oh yeah,
Like the Earl of
Sutherland or
Southampton,
Southland or whatever. Yeah, he
like
like the
with
hair
those ringlets, I was
on
like,
fleek. Like
okay,
what? Yeah.
yeah. That was another thing
Okay.
where I was like rewatching and I was like, oh my gosh, these boys are so pretty. Like, because I
They
remember
are so pretty. They are so pretty. And well, the gag is right that A, they're supposed to look like brothers who don't know it, and B, they're supposed to look like her sons. So like they all
yeah.
look like um like her. I wanted to pick up a thread and just say, Roberta, in response to your question about that opening frame, which is Derek Jacobi, he is
Yes.
recreating his role as chorus in Kenneth Branagh's Henry V. So if you
Okay.
watch Kenneth Branagh's Henry V, Derek Jacobi plays the chorus, who's like, "Oh, for a muse of fire," and like he enters
Yeah.
the theater and he's like, "Blah blah blah." So this is what. Okay, I love this movie. I love it. I love it. I love it. I don't think Oxford wrote a single play that bears the name of Shakespeare. So like that aside, like to me, this is just like great speculative historical fiction, same as like Shakespeare in Love or Stage Beauty or whatever. And I am on board for all of those, so deeply invested. And while this film is like like deeply framed as like a political thriller, there are these really cheeky things that it does to me that are like little digs or like clapbacks. So it like brings in that Derek Jacobi thing. I think it makes a lot of references to Shakespeare in Love. I think there's so
Yes.
many little like we see you Shakespeare in Love, and we're gonna
Yeah,
do this
because
with like more
Shakespeare in Love was
sophistication.
first. Yeah.
Yes, Shakespeare in Love was first. This is where I'm going to insert my like special note though that since 2015 I have made a firm commitment to not see monoracial white films with very few exceptions. I have made exceptions when they were written by women or directed by women or had very, very prominent women in the lead roles. So, had this film come out in 2015 or later, I would not have driven 60 miles to go see it because it's not written by a woman, it is not directed by a woman. It features a very heavy monoracial cast of white actors, mostly British white
British.
actors, and part of that, of course, is Emmerich Roland's like historical accuracy, which anybody who listens to me for 10 minutes knows is like hogwash because London was very, 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 very metropolitan, very multiracial, very multi-ethnic. Now, of course, Court had its own little nonsense going on, and like who performed in the theater that had its own little sort of like strict like class and gender and race thing. But we couldn't even get any local color. That's questionable to me that there just weren't any like local merchants and
Okay.
ambassadors, foreign
There was
embassy.
some representation with people identified differently, of course, but there were some like little people representation in the play of was it Midsummer or
Yes, it was
some, yeah, it was
Midsummer.
Midsummer. So there was like a tiny bit of like, oh, you know, somebody, but yeah, definitely nothing
Yes,
else.
there was an actor with dwarfism
Oh my gosh. Mhm.
presented to the queen, and she said, "Are you my gift?" So a little problematic,
Oh my God,
slightly
So
that
called him little
line,
scary.
man. She
that
said
line was so bad.
he said like I will follow or take us to the theater, little man, or something like that. Like it was not great, but mhm.
Yeah.
But like you, Roberta, I love a costume drama. I love a period piece. I think the film is like a feast for the eyes. I think it is so sumptuous. I think the production design is out of this world bananas. And so I could watch it over and over and over and over again. And I'm a little like I think, like you said, Jordan, like fanfic, right? Like I'm a little tickled that people come up with this stuff, that like people care so deeply, and that even within the authorship debate, this film took it way there because the general Oxfordian is not like really on board with the like incest story or that was her lover and her son. Like that's not really part of the Oxfordian theory. So the movie added like some extra like sauce
Yeah.
to it. The movie adding the whole Ben Jonson through line. Um,
Yeah.
you know, like the movie was movieing, and I love it. And one of the things that for me is especially moving is to see Vanessa Redgrave as the older Elizabeth, and then her daughter Jolie Richardson play the
Yes,
younger Elizabeth. And
that
I
was
just,
really, yeah, that was nice.
it's like brilliant casting. So I wanted to talk to you both just about how Elizabeth was depicted in the film. What did you, I mean, I think these two women are like incredible actors. So how did you receive the acting, but also like what you know about Elizabeth I, what you feel about what you know about Elizabeth I?
I say something.
Please.
I just want to say that I feel like you're not giving the representation like its full credit, because we did get some Italians in this film and they
Oh, okay,
were
yeah.
tan. And so, I mean, that to me feels like some form of representation. We got some like tan looking Italians.
So
Like,
tan looking Italians, because I IMDb'd and a fair number of the lead actors are British. So
Mhm.
they are not Italians. They are white British actors. And
Okay.
you are the same friend who roasted the original West Side Story for its use of brown face on those Greek actors.
Mhm.
And
It was
Greeks
a
and
different time.
Italians
It was a
are both
different
on the Mediterranean. I personally know that there are lots of Italians who
time.
are of African and Hispanic descent. I know there are a lot of Hispanics who are of African descent. I know that there's a point in history where Italian and Spanish ancestry is not so discernible in terms of the visual markers. So yes, okay, there were some people who maybe have an olive undertone. I don't know that there were actors in the film who would say, I am Black, I am Chinese, I am North African Arab, I am Jewish. And my point is that all of those people also existed inside of London.
yeah.
Mhm.
I
Well,
mean, that was basically the cast of the Harry Potter film. Like, all of those actors
yeah,
have been in Harry Potter.
that's crazy.
Because I was like, oh, I recognize you. I recognize you. I mean, the dude, like, not, yeah, but yeah.
Uh, Harry Potter has been
Yeah, it's done now. We got to move on.
ruined.
Come on.
It has been besmirched.
We can't.
A
We can't.
plague on both your
It,
houses.
it who shall be unnamed, I suppose.
Oh,
We can't put the title out anymore, huh?
I
No,
mean,
girl.
look who turned out to actually be Voldemort.
Ooh,
Look who turned out to actually be Voldemort. Jordyn, though, I appreciate that you flagging that there might be some more nuance to how representation was working in this film.
That's what I'm here for.
do
That's
do we know, or has there been any like articles written on if the actors who were in this film are identified as Oxfordians, or are they just like it was a paid job?
I do know that Mark Rylance, who played one of the actors in he played like Condell or something. Well, mostly
Yeah,
he played Richard the Third
Richard the Third. Yeah.
inside the little snippet, but he played like Condell. He is an Oxfordian, or he certainly is an anti-Stratfordian, because I've seen him speak about it before. And Derek Jacobi has also spoken on it before. And I mentioned when we were last together that there are a couple of documentaries that were like supplementary adjacent pieces to this, and they are both interviewed in that. And so I know at least those two have gone on record as being like, yeah, I don't know if the man from Stratford wrote the plays.
Mm.
I'd have to do more
Bold,
research.
considering they've made their careers on Shakespeare.
Agreed.
okay. That was saucy. Anyways,
Queen Elizabeth, what do we think?
uh,
I know Roberta has a lot that she probably wants to say.
I mean, I don't want to take over, obviously, this part of the conversation, but I have a really strong distaste. I think the actors, incredible. You've already said this. So that this is no dig on the quality of performance, none whatsoever. But the depiction of Elizabeth felt to me very disrespectful. And I don't know the woman. Okay, I know the history, right? But it felt like, I guess the goal was to demonstrate that she is being like controlled and manipulated by this, Cecil family. But like, I felt like she was depicted like a doll, like a puppet,
Yeah.
like she had no agency, no strength that I feel like I've come to love about the historical figure, and respect that she is a woman in a man's game. And you know, I there are other films that depict her so differently. And so I really, of course, we want this like political figurehead to have a story of love. Like, I don't deny that for her, even in like truth and reality. Like, I know she never got married, but like I know she didn't I forego attention or love or whatever. Like, I would hope that for her. But like, it felt like that was her only aim. It I don't know. She felt fluffy to me. She didn't feel strong. She didn't feel like in her power. She felt like a pawn in the game. And I feel like historically that doesn't sit right with me.
I understand.
I respect it. It makes me think of Kate Blanchett in the Elizabeth movies where she's like, I too can command the wind. And I'm like, yeah,
Yes. And
yes.
I don't want to steal your thunder, Jordan, but like in other films that we love, she is such a strong character. And it felt like this movie just ripped all of that from her as a person. Like, it didn't give enough context to her character to make it feel like she was like a like robust, complicated political figurehead beloved by her people. Like, it felt very like a one-sided portrayal of her, and not in a favorable light, in my opinion. So yeah, I really struggled with that. What was written in the script, not what the actors did, because they were wonderful. Um, very nuanced acting performances, very touching. But I wasn't a fan of the way the character was written.
Mhm.
Joe?
Well, I think I agree with Roberta a lot that, I mean, I was going to say, well, first of all, my main takeaway from her character, and also just like in other movies where I've seen Queen Elizabeth portrayed, I'm like, oh my gosh, those men ruined her life. Like, they really played her, and it makes me feel so bad for her. And then I feel bad for feeling bad because I'm like, ultimately, she was like a monarch, so it's like, she was kind of sketch, but I mean, really, I'm like, dang, those men ruined her life. Like, I feel so bad for her. But in this movie, I think they like depicted that, like they showed that clearly the men around her were playing games, um, and being very deceitful, and yeah, like trying to pull the strings behind her back. But I also feel like they just wrote her as like being like, oh, like in every like age. Like, obviously I think some portions of that, at least in terms of like older Queen Elizabeth, where what I interpreted as like her being older, and so like your mind maybe starts to go, and so like you're just not too quick on like, picking up perhaps on when people are being deceitful and lying, and there's trickery. But I would say like even in the like younger depiction of her, they kind of like wrote her as being, yeah, like not very like not having like a very critical eye, like not actually having any real like sort of discernment and how she is as a ruler, or not even really caring about being a ruler.
Yeah.
And I just feel like that's
Yeah.
like there was no actual, in my opinion, like scene in this movie or any sort of like hint to her actually having an interest or a real care and the fact that like she was a queen of this nation, like she is going to pass on and there's like a line of succession and like what's going on. It was all sort of like, I mean, in every scene where there's any sort of like official business happening, she's sort of just like going along with the men that are around her, where she's sort of just like, oh yeah, or like, oh yeah, send Essex to Ireland, or like send whatever. She's like, okay, yeah. And I feel like they tried to use the whole like aging factor. They leaned into it too hard. I feel like they were using it too much as a cover up. Because I don't know all the history, but I just feel like you don't get to be a queen in that time for that long and like not get your throat slit or something if you didn't actually have a real interest or like care about how you are as a ruler. Like, I don't know. I just feel like they portrayed her as very like not actually um having an interest in her.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It felt like they took her love of literature and the word and plays, and they used that to like manipulate the character into this kind of frivolous,
Yeah.
girlish, like just I don't know. It felt like it took this like potential one side of her and
Mhm.
really exploited it to their benefit of how they were portraying her.
She definitely had like moments where it was just like petulant with no payoff,
Yeah.
which is very different, I think, when you watch like Elizabeth Rex with like Glinda Jackson or the Elizabeth movies with Kate Blanchett, where she does have these like eruptions of moments that are like that sort of trope of like, oh, the hysterical woman, but like the payoff. Like when Kate Blanchett says, I too can command the wind, like cut to ships on their way to like wreck some shit, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, oh, sis actually can command the wind, or like that famous quote of like, I have a lion's heart or whatever, and it's like, oh, you really believe it. And here it's like when she has those outbursts, she's just told no and there's no payoff. Like, who's my son? No. Bring me Edward. No. I'm the queen. No. i
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
marry him. No. And it's like I don't it is hard to believe that like really she would be like that impotent and be queen for so long.
Yeah.
Um, though I do think the kind of hype around the Cecil family has some merit, because that was a reign. Like the like elder Cecil and
Yes.
the younger Cecil, like that's true. Like they got in there, and the old elder
Deep.
Cecil was in there for a long time, and then the baby Cecil did navigate that transition of power from Elizabeth to James, like historically. Um, that, and I mean that's wild, right? Because that's
Yeah.
the when England came under like a united crown under James, and he navigated that. He navigated that Essex Rebellion, real thing, and then of course there was like the gunpowder plot like right away towards James, and like he navigated. So those Cecil boys definitely
Yeah.
were up to something. I
Okay,
mean,
question.
yes, ma'am.
I hope I don't sound super silly, but I'm gonna be vulnerable. Okay, may I?
Please.
Okay,
Can't wait.
because I have to bring this movie up. We already knew this was coming. I'm bringing up Mary Queen of Scots. Okay, I don't remember
Yeah.
exactly when it came out, what year. Margot Robbie as Queen Elizabeth, Saoirse Ronan as Mary Queen of Scots.
Yes.
Yeah.
Titular whatever name. Okay, who cares? Anyways, it sort of connects to the fuller conversation that I think the depiction of Queen Elizabeth, Margot Robbie, in that movie is very different than the depiction of Queen Elizabeth in this movie. But now that I have rewatched Anonymous and I am understanding things in a greater sense, is James like Mary Queen of Scots' son? Is that who that is in like the grand scheme? Like, because in Mary Queen of Scots, spoilers, Mary gets her head chopped off. She died.
History spoiler, yeah.
It's a pretty big, I know it happened centuries ago, but spoilers. Mary gets her head lopped off, okay? And in that movie, I'm going on a whole tangent, by the way. In that movie, I feel like they really like set it up where it's like you can't have it all. Where like Queen Elizabeth really chooses like power and her crown over love. And then like Queen Mary like chooses love, like because she has like a family, she has a baby, all of this. She like gets married to the man, like she gets married for love. At least that's how they depict it in the movie. She gets married for love, and she's like, ah, life is so good, and I'm gonna be so nice to my people, and all of these things. And then in the end, she's the one that gets her head chopped off. Um, and now I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, it's all connected. James is Mary's son, and he became the king, which Elizabeth would have never wanted. This is crazy. So I just had to confirm that that's true, right? Like that's him. I mean, that's what happens in
Yeah,
wow.
yeah, yeah.
I
And
understand even more deeply than why like Elizabeth would be rolling in her grave.
yeah,
That's
because
crazy.
the reason why, Mary was, it all goes back to the Tudors and like what happened with Henry VIII, right? And all of his wives and the argues of who's the legitimate heir and whatever. And Mary claim to the English throne was through that Tudor lineage because of one of the wives. So, yeah,
That's
succession was like an issue because Elizabeth didn't marry, and whether, her children, legitimate or not, could step into the throne was not, you know, couldn't really happen because weird British aristocracy rules.
interesting.
Pride, I don't know.
I understand. Also, can I just say that what was the full title? It's like, oh, Queen or King, whatever, of like England, Ireland, and Wales or something. Like that's what the full title.
Oh,
And when
yeah.
they opened the movie with that, when like talking about like Queen Elizabeth, I was like, something about that doesn't sound right. You don't get to have England, Ireland, and Wales. So like I have to stand with my Irish people. And like
Well,
I'm
that's a whole history
I know, but
moment right there.
I have to add in that I stand with my Irish people. I stand with my Welsh people. Like, get your freedom, because something about that doesn't sound right. You know what I mean? Like, it's not cool. It's not cool that they did that to you guys, and I understand and I respect it. And I just have to say that like I stand with you. So there we go.
And when
Colonialism, baby.
James I became king, it became King of Scotland, England, Ireland, and Wales. Um, and and this is still, why they call the United Kingdom, right, the UK, because there's still some attachment. Like Wales is still under like a constitutional monarch. I mean, I majored in theater, so let me not
Yeah.
say wrong
All
things.
the
But
history I know is because of theater. Let's be clear.
um, but yes, James. So Cecil the younger, like he manipulated all of that because Elizabeth didn't want to name James her successor because of her rivalry that she had with Mary Queen of Scots, um, who, because you love that movie so much, maybe we'll do a rewatch of that movie and talk about that movie on the pod because Saoirse Ronan is your favorite actor. And B, that movie also plays with like historical fictive timelines because in real life, the two women never met. Like there's no historical
They,
record.
yeah, they create that whole moment in the movie where
Which
like
is
they
one of
get
the most
so
beautiful scenes.
close. They like are like there together. It's
Oh,
yeah.
it's stunning.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and they were cousins. And then Elizabeth also had a sister Mary, and she was Bloody Mary. And I mean, like they're like the Marys were Catholic and Elizabeth was, I guess now we say
Protestant.
Protestant, but it was Church of England, so the Anglican Church. Now we say Protestant. So there was a lot going on, and of course, I think the Cecils also. I mean, that's why Anonymous is sort of billed as a political thriller because it's all about like how the Cecils were like moving and manipulating, and I mean, even the idea that the Richard III, who we know historically, the historical figure had scoliosis. So we know that that figure had a curvature of the spine. But in this film, Anonymous, they try and say that Shakespeare wrote Richard to be a hunchback because the younger
Cecil.
Cecil was a hunchback, when in reality, both men had curvature of the spine. Plenty of people had curvature of the spine. Healthcare was different then, and well, they did subscribe to incest. So there's things that you're supposed to like keep
Gotta
the
keep it in
gene
the bloodline.
pool. You gotta work through
Mhm.
the gene pool to get some things nixed. But let's talk about Shakespeare, because where you, Roberta, were like feeling that offense at like Elizabeth, I was like, how dare they? How how dare they make my dude, a drunken, illiterate buffoon? Like, how dare they?
Insufferable character.
Really made him like a himbo. Like he was like
What is a himbo? Please explain for the Gen X viewers what a himbo is.
it's like a male bimbo. So you know like how you might call I'm anti. Don't go around calling women bimbos. But you know
I
how
love that we create the opposite though.
yeah, you like how some might call a woman a bimbo, maybe like kind of like ditzy, just like not really, her mind isn't really like of the world. Like they did create a male version of that where it's like, oh, you are so gorgeous and you are so stupid and like you don't know anything. And I'm not sure if there's much going on up there. They really made him that where
Ugh,
it was just like, ah, you pretty boy. Like that's what they did to him.
yeah.
It was
I'm yeah,
disrespectful.
equally offended on Shakespeare's behalf. I agree.
And of course, by now, if anybody's watched in order, we've talked about my tattoo that says non sans droit. And there's like a whole beautiful scene in the movie where he's like presenting his crest and like saying
Yeah.
the motto, and then they just like mock him. And in part, in the movie, it's like earned because his character is like so daft, and the like Sweet
Even
Ben
like
Johnson,
Undeserving. Yeah.
like the Sweet Ben Johnson boy is like, you are not a gentleman. Like you did not write these plays. But like in real life, Shakespeare worked hard. He was a businessman, he was a shareholder. We know he was an actor. So whether we can agree if the man from Stratford wrote the plays or not, we know the man from Stratford um had money on the line, worked hard as an actor, and I think did a very good thing to like go and get that family crest as a way to like honor his pops, who never could get it, even though his family more than like deserved that gentleman status. His dad just had bad debts. So I didn't like that Shakespeare
Yeah.
dude, which I guess is the point, right? Is to say like, how could this clown have
Oh my God.
written some of the greatest poetry in the English
but
language?
like does he have
Yeah.
to be a clown for it to be like
Ugh,
of Oxford?
no.
That's the thing is like they really took it there. Like they were really
They
just
were really like, yeah.
shady
What I
because
didn't Go
what
ahead, sorry.
no, it just is like Shakespeare doesn't have to be a clown for it to have been the Earl of Oxford. That's like just wild. So, anyways,
Yeah. I also was like really upset at this idea that like someone from nothing cannot rise up. And I think that like for those of us that love Shakespeare, that's part of it, that he came from modest upbringing. He didn't have a lot of advantages. but that he took what he had, which was, this education and love of art and, whatever it is, the thing that rose him above the status that he had. And like, I think as a theme for people who like admire that, like it took it from us. And I felt really like upset about that. Like you took the thing because you're saying you're not allowing for people to see in themselves that they can become more, that they can rise above. And I was like, oh, I didn't like that.
That
Mhm.
is one of the like things about the sort of like Oxfordian theory at large that sort of like rubs me the wrong way is when it's like, but he didn't have the university education, but he didn't have. He only had a grammar school education. Well, in that time, by
That was
grammar
pretty
school,
good.
they learned Latin.
Yeah,
Like, come on. Also, like his his father was like an alderman, like his father was like mayor. Like he did have status. He saw performing troops when they came through Stratford on the River. Like he had exposure to these
yeah,
things. We certainly know that he was an actor in London. Also, nobody's disputing the fact, right, that none of these were original plots. So a so
yeah,
a reasonable person with a creative imagination who's done some acting in the theater might be able to be like, "Oh, I could flip that." So it's entirely possible that somebody who only had like up to an eighth grade education and, like you said, modest upbringing could be have the creative imagination to like invent a Mercutio. Like that is
yeah.
entirely within the realm of possibility.
I have a
Um,
question.
yes,
So, is the idea that like the Earl of Oxford, so they believe that the Earl of Oxford wrote the plays.
yes.
I guess one question is, what evidence actually supports that? And then a second question is, do they, so like, because obviously part of the film Anonymous is just like, we're gonna make it dramatic because it's a movie and we need to like sell it. But is the idea that like part of the reason why he couldn't own up to being the writer have to do with the whole like politics? Because I feel like in the movie they sort of frame it as like, well, the Earl of Oxford could never say that he's writing because, and he's writing materials that like cause uprising in the streets, and he's writing about, other like noblemen. So like he could never own up to it being him because that would like cause issues. Is that like a real theory as to why he never admitted or ever owned up to that it was him, if it was him?
Yeah, yes. So part of it is that like theater, like a theater profession was
Hmm.
like lowly looked down upon. In fact, like legitimate theater couldn't happen inside the city proper, which is you've been there, right? Which is why those theaters are on the South Bank. They
Hmm.
had to be outside of the city limits.
Yeah,
So that part that is like basically like, oh, if you're do theater, it's like prostitution, even though the queen and the king would invite players to court, they would come
yeah,
to the fancy houses and perform. Um, but also the like, yes, the like salacious nature of it. There are other noblemen who wrote like poems or novels, but there's something about like plays and the theater being looked down upon, and then yes, the topics that come up or the content of the plays would, so it's like he couldn't put his own name to him because it would just like ruin his image. Now, these hardcore Oxfordians, when you ask the question, is there evidence? Girl, they could cite you like chapter, line, they can cite it. They can tell you this allusion to this thing in this play is based on a painting that hangs on the wall at this house, and only somebody with access to court could have seen that painting to know what that allusion is. This story from this thing that came from Ovid's this, that, or that, only somebody with this level of education would know that to be able to write about it. I mean, they get very, 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 very specific about the
Mm.
evidence that they have, and it is fascinating evidence. I'm still not personally
It's
convinced.
not enough for me. The one piece of evidence that I felt like they were leaning on heavy in the film, which was at the very end, was the dedication that the Earl of Oxford wrote in King Lear, or whatever he packaged, the last thing that he packaged in the film. This is in the film, and gave to Ben Jonson. And it was like, to the man we know as Shakespeare. And so they were using that as like a claim that
Mhm.
Shakespeare was not the author. It's not enough for me. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't feel substantial enough for me.
Yeah, if you watch some of these documentaries, they'll talk about how there's no accurate portraits of Shakespeare and how, like, the very famous portrait, the one that I was using as show art for a while, is like a mask. When I was on this panel, because I went to one of the Oxford conferences before, I remember very specifically one of the academics was talking about this painting and how in Antony and Cleopatra, there's this passage about like the barge she sat on burned like a bridge, and that is this, and that is an allusion to this painting, and this painting hangs in a very specific place. And without, having access to that painting, how would you know to write this thing? So, so they have made a case. They have made a case. My favorite Shakespeare scholars either don't traffic in the authorship debate at all, or
Mhm.
just wholesale or like it's hogwash. And I find their evidence for why the man from Stratford did write the plays more compelling.
Mhm.
And for what it's worth, I mean, obviously, um, AI is its own question, comment, and concern right now, and there's already ethical questions, and everybody's AI will spit out for them a different response. But my particular AI bots are very biased in support of the man from Stratford
You've
because
trained them well.
I guess I have trained them well because my AI bots are like real quick to be like Shakespeare signed legal documents, so the idea that he's illiterate is like not substantiated, and so my AI bots are all over it. They're like, yes, his like wife and daughters were illiterate, but that's different. There's no proof that Shakespeare himself was illiterate because girls weren't educated the same as boys, So I don't know if Oxfordians AIs are trained on their biases, and so maybe their AI bots would argue with mine. But my AI bots are not here for anybody saying that these plays were written by anybody other than the, than the man
I
from
love that.
Stratford.
I'll have to ask my bot what they think.
I chat with the AI often
Oh
because,
my.
well, it's fun. I have a good time. It's like playing Sims. You guys remember that Sims game? For me,
Oh
it's like
yeah.
it's like being an avatar in like a constructed world. So here's what I'm hearing. We should rewatch Mary Queen of Scots. So we should do a
Oh,
rewatch. We should do a
100%.
rewatch on that. And we also might want to do a rewatch of Shakespeare.
Yeah, all of it,
Nobody
all of
said
the
that, Dawn.
fanfic.
Like
No,
nobody said do a Shakespeare in Love rewatch.
and then we'll do stage beauty after that.
I'm obsessed with stage beauty, like nobody's business. I'm obsessed with stage beauty. What is coming to the cinema, right, is Hamnet, which of course you two got to see on
Ah,
stage across the pond. Um,
Yes.
Here in the Bay Area, ACT is going to produce it as part of their 25-26 season. So hopefully I'll get to see it. But the film is forthcoming. And that is
Yeah.
definitely something we could
Yeah, we
watch.
heard casting, but I haven't heard much since then.
yeah. And I don't
So
remember.
curious.
It was like Paul Mescal was gonna play Shakespeare. I don't remember who was gonna play Anne Hathaway. I don't remember. But yeah, some information is out about it. I'm intrigued to see
Yeah.
what it's gonna be like.
I'll watch it. I'll watch it for sure.
Mhm.
I love the novel, and I actually really like the play adaptation. I, but like I wasn't as blown away by the production, but I'm excited to see it again when it's here in San Francisco.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see now that it's been in the world a few years. Like, have they made some
Yeah,
changes? Like, who's doing this production? Like, is this the
yeah.
same RSC director? Is it a different director? Who's in the cat? I'm excited because I haven't seen it at all, and I loved the book so much. Um, if we go back to Anonymous just a little bit, it's really like seated late in the action, that like sort of climax where, I mean, I think we're set up to know um that the Earl of Southampton is her son. Like they tell us that, and they kind of Queen Elizabeth's son, and they with the Earl of Oxford, so Edward de Vere and Queen Elizabeth's son. But it's sort of like late in the movie where they're like, oh, and by the way, this other dude is also her son, and you
Yeah,
are also her son.
yeah. I mean, there, like,
She's a
I think
queen. She's got
that
sons.
was kind of muddy because in the beginning, the Earl of Essex, when he was hanging out with the South guy, um, they were having conversations like Essex is like, yeah, I'm legitimate or da 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 da. So it's like, wait, okay, so you're the son. But then I was like, wait, but this other guy, so like that information in the script was a little muddy for me until and then of course we dropped this bomb at the end about Oxford also being a son from her supposed first pregnancy at 16 years old. I mean, we're really depicting Elizabeth. I mean, women had not a lot of options, obviously, but like we're really depicting in this film that she's just this like flighty, like I'm gonna just get on with all the boys kind of character. And I was just so mad about it. But yeah, the sun stuff I feel like I have so many questions. Like, what is this based in? I'm like, what, where?
And,
I'm
like
just like
doing it where like the Earl of Oxford, so like the older man,
the
right?
like main character of the film,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
essentially. Yeah, yeah,
So they were doing it as like the Earl of Oxford. Like there was an entire plot for the Earl of Oxford to be given to a good family, then for that family to die. So then that like the Cecil could then have him come back into the home and like maybe he was gonna be the king to begin with if only he had just like acted right.
acted
Like
better.
I don't
Yeah, they were gonna groom him,
I
but
don't
he
know.
failed the mission that he
Yeah.
didn't even know he was a part of.
So it was like all very like there was a lot of components. There was a lot
Yes.
of components.
Muddy,
He was
muddy, muddy,
supposed
muddy.
to not sleep with his mom. He was supposed to not cheat on his wife, Anne. He was supposed to just be married to Cecil's daughter and have babies with her. And Cecil had a whole plan how, at the
Machinations.
appropriate time and place, we would reveal that his grandchild was the heir to the throne because Edward was actually Elizabeth's heir. But once you started sleeping with Elizabeth, like, bruh, we can't go public with that information now at all. And also, by the way, and this is like, this for me is unclear in the film, but it's a little bit intimated. Like, because in real life, Elizabeth and the Earl of Essex, so the middle son, her middle boy, her son with the short hair,
Yeah.
uh,
Also, I thought the film depicted them as lovers. Like
well,
I thought
because
they were,
that's the real question. That's the real historical question is, were they lovers? So the film
Yeah.
got a little bit messy in terms of
yes.
intimating that, like, oh, so now both of your illegitimate sons are
Because
your lovers? Like, she
there was
can't be that. Like,
yeah.
that's goes back to your point about just like not giving her any agency. Like, y'all, she can't be that daft to just be sleeping with her sons that she doesn't know are her sons. Like, that's mean. Don't
Right.
do that to that woman.
Yeah.
It was not good.
Sure.
Yeah, because but also I feel like the film intimated that the two earls were into each other too. Like, because
Okay.
Earl of Southwood was like,
I was like, this movie
I'm
is
gonna
gay.
go Essex. I have to be with him. Like, I'm gonna save his life and kill the guy who's trying to kill you. Like, I was like,
Literally.
oh, you love him. Like, you're in love with him, right? Like,
Yeah. It gets real like Grecian tragic towards the end because then you're like, they're brothers, fathers, sons, lovers,
you
and they're
lost me
about to
already.
be beheaded. You know, so it's very like it's giving Oedipus. Like it's really like, wait a
It
minute.
was.
These are your brothers. One of them is your sons. They staged a rebellion for which now they are to die. Like this is a mess. Like she's
And like
about to
the
kill her
Earl
sons and nobody told her. Like this is
the-
a mess.
This
so
is why this. Go ahead, Jordan.
was like sobbing, like watching the Earl of Essex, so his brother, like sobbing. But you have to keep in mind they don't know that they're brothers, and
No.
so we're like in this world where they don't know that they're brothers. Sure, I'm sure they've built a bond, but that man was like sobbing at that tower window
Yeah.
watching the execution happening, and I was like, this is like really gay. Like I was like, this is really like, oh my gosh, that's another big takeaway from this movie. This movie is horned the F up. This movie is so horny. So I'm watching this and I'm like, there's straights, there's gays, there's bis. Like I was like, oh my gosh. So yeah, in that scene where he's watching his brother, lover, cousin, I don't know, homie get beheaded, I was like, oh my God, he's in love with him. Like this really hurts him.
Like,
Yeah.
the
Look at
Cecils really could have prevented this if they just like gave up a little bit of information to like ease this transition into what they were
Yeah.
hoping for political power. Like,
yeah.
come on.
And I
Come on.
definitely will say, like like I don't want to visit that on the regular, Oxfordians who just want to say
Yes.
that, like the Earl of Oxford. Like I don't think they're into all that extra incestual. I think that was like for the film to add some layers to the film to like get. I think the regular, Oxfordians are like slow down, slow.
Y'all are getting too carried away.
Like now you're just making us look bad. Like no, we didn't say all that.
The
You know what
director of
character
that film.
what the director
Yeah.
is Emmerich Roland.
Oh, okay.
Um, the writer is John Orloff.
I mean,
don't-
I'm assuming they are Oxfordian.
I don't actually know at all.
Oh, okay.
I did a little bit of research on John Orloff just to be like, what else has he written? And he's actually an American screenwriter. And what I saw is that he was interested in the authorship debate. I don't know that he has
Okay.
a strong feeling either way. I think Imric Roland is just like a really remarkable filmmaker. And so it was like, this is somebody
Let's
who's
do this. Okay.
gonna like, and at the time that he did this film, he wasn't necessarily known for like period films, so it was sort of like an opportunity to also kind of like stretch. Um, the character we haven't talked about though is Marlowe and how Marlowe was so grimy. Like Marlowe was so like just not like grimy, and I feel like maybe that's just like some get back because we don't see a lot of plays or like Ben Jonson is just like, I don't want to
The
say overlooked,
heroes.
like he's not overlooked because like all the early modern scholarly people know Ben Jonson, love Ben Jonson. But I feel like when we talk like about like
Mhm.
for people who are like less academic about it, I feel like we don't hear about Johnson as much. And so there's
Yeah.
a clear intention here to be like, no, we are going to uplift Ben
They
Jonson
gave him a lot of screen time.
and we are taking Kit Marlowe to the dirt.
Down.
We are putting
Down.
him in the
And
gutter.
they implied that
Understand.
Shakespeare was the one who murdered Marlowe. And I was like, oh, that is so interesting because I feel a lot of the fanfic that we watch, plays, film, like that they were pals, you know? So
Is it-
like,
Aren't they lovers? I thought they were lovers.
well,
In
they're
Born with Teeth.
in Bournemouth Teeth, they
Yeah.
are definitely lovers. But yeah, even in Shakespeare in Love, like they're pretty chummy. Like so I
Right.
felt like they
Kiki
took
at the
that,
bar for sure.
yeah. And he was pretty distraught when Marlowe was uh dead, like killed. So like to have this film be like, nah, they're not cool, and Shakespeare killed him so that nobody would know to like save face that he wasn't the author because Marlowe found out. And I'm like, ooh,
Yeah.
that's
Some
bold.
yeah, like some real espionage, some really like spy, like blackmail, like that was wild. He was not a
Yeah.
likable character at
This film
all.
was messy. This film was messy. And I think that that actually is a disservice to anyone who is actually an Oxfordian or challenging Shakespeare as the author, because this film was so messy, like emotionally messy, and people are doing people dirty, that actually the like that plot of is Shakespeare the author is kind of, I mean,
It's
it's
the
not
least
lost,
of your
but
worries.
it's the least interesting part of the film.
Yeah.
Like, like
Right? Because aren't you so worried? Like, I was like, when Elizabeth watches the like first Midsummer that the little sweet baby Earl of Oxford has put on, and it's like, that is a child. Why are you like having those eyes for that child? And then it's like just a handful of years later, and they're like hooking up, and it's like, oh, this
yeah,
is
because it's like a 16-year difference.
he's like a bait. Like this is.
Yeah. Yeah, not a good, not a cute scene for Elizabeth. Not a good look, girl.
Not one of her
Or
finest moments.
Not one of
no.
her finest moments.
Or I mean, he so easily wins her over, you know, in that like boudoir scene where he's like half naked and he just like starts quoting Twelfth Night, of course. Um, and it's
She's so
like,
pliable in this film
yeah.
as a character. Like, ugh, it's
But
really
I love her
disappointing.
I
gowns though. Beautiful
that's
gowns.
what's just like it's such
The
to
costume,
watch it. The
Beautiful
design.
gowns.
I mean, the design is so sick. Like, I mean, it's such a feast for the eyes. It's so sumptuous. The looks are so sumptuous. Those
hmm
red ringlets, everybody's red hair. I mean, like, it's just like so delicious. The looks are so delicious. And then, like, the cinematography of it too, like the way they play with chiaroscuro, like when the Cecils are around, it's just like dark and like all those like heavy tapestries, and there's just like that little
Oh, yes.
shaft of light
yes,
through the window, and I mean like it's like the production design is
it was
so
good, very good.
delicious, and of
Yeah,
the acting is like extraordinary. It's just
yeah,
like the plausibility is like we're
mm,
reaching, and
yeah,
that's okay because it's a historical fiction. I just need people to know that it's a fiction,
yeah. Thick, thick, heavy on the thick.
like heavy on the fanfic, which we love.
Yeah,
We're all about the fanfic.
yeah.
um what we so the people have spoken and they want you back more often. So we need another homework assignment. And I'm want to just make a direct call to action. This is what all the like social media training says. You have to make a direct call to action. So if you've made it this far in the episode and you haven't already hit like and subscribe, do that. Hit
Oh,
like and subscribe. But also let us know. You can give us homework. Let us know what should we watch? What should we read? What do you want to hear the
Yeah.
three of us talk about? This is such a great opportunity to have women in different decades of their lives, just like kiki about a variety of Shakespeare adjacent nonsense. So we'd love to hear from you what you want us to do. You know, these two have their book club, they have their A24 movie club. I think Jordyn said she might watch that Kenny Leon Much Ado that we've talked about before. So we're open to your suggestions for things that you want to hear the three of us crack
Yeah,
wise on.
that sounds good. I'm down. I have a good time.
oh my gosh. I enjoy it.
Oh, what
Oh,
enthusiasm.
she
What a
graces us with her
what
presence.
a display of enthusiasm. Well, because the episodes we record are the hardest to edit because we record for 95 hours, I'm going to end us here and I'm going to thank you both for coming on the show once again.
Let's go.